안녕하세요, 여러분. Welcome to episode 3 of Sakura Pop at Sakura Popcast, where your inner musings of K-dramas come to life. Please do mash that like, favorite, subscribe button, and send me a review. You are listening to Jackie here. I am your host, and I can't believe I am on episode 3 already. I really put the pedal to the metal, and I have 3 episodes up this week. There's something special, very special about lucky number 3, and that is my new co-host. I've got a special guest today with me. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Bonnie, and I like K-dramas just like Jackie.
When did you start really getting into watching them?
Oh, I think I started like way back in the, Winter Sonata days, and then I paused for a bit. And I think it's recently when everything started going on Netflix, so I've started watching again in the last few years, and it's addictive for sure.
Bonnie and I, we have only recently begun to discuss our K-drama musings and update each other on what we're watching. And this episode, we are exploring another Netflix K-drama. It is called Startup, and it was released in 2020. It is 16 episodes long, and this is the summary. Young entrepreneurs aspiring to launch virtual dreams into reality compete for success and love in a cutthroat world of Korea's high-tech industry. Starring some household names, Bae Suzy, Joo-hyuk, and Seon-ho. I did squeeze in the last 2 episodes last night. I started at 9:30, finished off at 11. I mean, each episode is 1 hour and 15 minutes long or so. So, given that time span, I fast forward, like, skipped a whole bunch of scenes and just like got to the meat and good parts of it. Because that's all I had time for, and I was not interested in certain people and things happening in the drama. Basically, if grandma isn't part of the scene or if Han Ji Pyong is not part of the scene, then I'm skipping it. I was excited whenever I saw Han Ji Pyong, and I was not as excited with the Suzy and Namdo-san scenes.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think a lot of netizens and people watching it would probably agree with you as well.
Yeah, how people feel and rate this drama really depends about how you feel after you watch the ending. I think this drama started out really strong. I was so interested, like the first 3 episodes, it was so hilarious. The first few episodes actually comprise of like the best parts of Startup for me. Episodes 3, 2, 3, and 6 were all very memorable. And even after I watched 16 episodes, if I have to pick out favorite scenes, I pick them out from the earlier half of Startup rather than the later half. Like I can barely remember things that happen in the later half.
I feel like that's a common theme about I think that's a common theme amongst K-dramas though. They always start off strong for the first half, and then somehow a lot of the times the main characters get to their goal and where they want to be, and then the rest of it is just filler to me. So I agree with you that it's usually really good at the beginning and then you get disappointed at the end. Unfortunately, that's very common. And for me, the first episode was definitely the most memorable. I know saying that it's a comedy, but the first episode was so traumatic for me that I felt like, oh, I might not be able to continue because of what happened in that ending of the first episode.
Uh, yeah, that wasn't expected. Like, I thought it was just going to dive into the whole matter of starting up a business, which is the exciting part. But it spent some time combing through So Down-mi's past and Han Ji Pyong's past as well. Uh, Yeah, they need to set up a context for us. Like, why do you need to care for these characters is what it's trying to do.
Exactly. And do you think that's probably why people don't necessarily relate to Namdo-san as much because he wasn't included in those first episodes and he just kind of came out of nowhere? So you didn't get to relate to him as much?
You're right. There are also a lot of other reasons why I cannot relate to Namdo-san.
For sure.
I think this drama really threw me off because how it's set up, the characters' backgrounds. I was fully expecting Han Ji-pyeon to be the lead male lead, not just like the second love interest or the second male lead, but the one with the most lines, the one with the most screen time, the one who will get to end up with Suzy.
The one who started the whole show. Yeah. So that's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's such a big part of her past. Like that seemed to be the natural trajectory that this drama was
Hmm.
going, which I suppose will make it predictable, but sometimes we want that. Don't we want that in romantic romantic dramas? The predictable?
More comfortable. If it's truly a rom com, then you would expect that, that it is predictable, right? The fact is, I think they tried to be different and tried to make it like, oh, a twist, but I don't think it was satisfying for most people watching it.
It just didn't execute as well as I would have liked. I still suspected that at some point Han Ji-pyeon was going to sweep in, like after he became their mentor. I thought, okay, Ji-pyeon and Darmi are going to have more opportunities to interact. And ergo, when you spend more time together, you develop affections. And then he would basically become like the White Knight and capture Daomi's heart. But that did not pan out. And there was in one exact moment when I realized that Ju Pyong is not the main male lead and he's never going to be.
No, I remember you messaging me and you're like, oh, the ship has sailed. It's over. I don't remember exactly what you said though.
It's the kiss, the first kiss. Yeah, between Nam Do-sang and Darmi.
Oh, right.
In Western dramas, everybody goes around like doing everybody else, but that does not exist in Korean dramas. Everybody is an eternal pairing. Once you pair somebody up, that stays kind of thing. Especially after they kiss. There's like no turning back. The ship has sailed. There is no chance for Ji Pyong to slip in and to become the proverbial white knight.
I was hoping the pairing occurred when they were younger, when they were writing the letters, not when they were older.
That would be
So that was
scandalous.
disappointing.
They have to be of legal age first.
Well, not necessarily with a kiss. I mean, the fate thing.
Nam Do-san had an ultra cool scene where he smashed that glass name tag in front of the corrupt and jerk off chairman.
Yeah,
That was very cool.
that was cool, but I was still not too attracted to him, even though he did that. So I think he would have to do a lot more, given how I was already so invested
Okay,
in Ji Pyong.
can you say that by the end of episode 16, you are a lot more attracted and find Nam Do-sang a lot more appealing than when you first initially saw him?
A lot more? No, maybe a little bit. Because I feel
Oh, poor
like
Nam Do-sang.
I feel like okay, when he got the haircut, I was like, oh, okay, he's actually not bad looking. And then when in terms of personality though, I think he just has so much more to go compared to Ji Pyong that it's like it's impossible if I have to compare the two, which like they're put side by side, I can't help but compare them. It'll be hard for him to catch up, right? I do appreciate him for his talent in, coding, but that's about it. And that's not enough for me to be, attracted to a guy.
Yeah, and every female who's watched Startup seems to have settled on Ji Pyong being like their ideal. He embodies the ideal. Like sometimes he's a little bit rude, but overall, he's settled. He's very charismatic. He can take care of himself. He can mentor and take care of other people in his life. He's, like practically 100% good looking. And Namdo-san, like you said, he's very lacking for me. Other than his coding skills, and I guess maybe he they were trying to play off his like shy, immature, kind of naive cuteness as an appeal factor. It didn't do it for me.
Yeah, and that's unusual for me because usually in these types of K dramas where typically the girl has two guys going after her, a rich, more mature one and a younger, more thoughtful, kind one. I tend to like the younger, more thoughtful one. That's why I was trying to at the beginning of this podcast kind of rationalize why I wasn't as attracted to Namdo-san. And I really can't I really can't explain it. It's just because, like you said, he is not perfect. He has flaws too, like the way he treats people. He's not nice. So that's not an attractive quality. But I think everything else about him is so like, he was an orphan and he did all this and he was able to get himself to where he is all by himself. And then he's also thoughtful with the fact that he never forgot about what the grandmother did for him and he went back and repaid her with everything. That was attractive. But I don't know. It's just, I feel like Namdo-san is too weak. He doesn't have a backbone. He isn't able to stand up for himself. The reason he was able to get to where he did was from a lot of help from other people, including his parents, including Dalmi, so I don't know something
Yep.
about him. He's
Yeah.
a lovely
Yeah.
guy,
Okay.
but
Yeah, he is, sensitive, very, very considerate, very kind. He's a living
yes,
Buddha, like
yes,
like the show says. Yep. Um, and but he lacks charismaticness. What's that word? Charisma.
charisma.
Yes. He lacks charisma.
Yep,
That, special kind of the leadership qualities, the magnetic traits that just pulls somebody to somebody else. Um, I think my brother described it best. He watched this drama also because he liked, the idea of like startup technology. And I think he used words that we have not used so far, adjectives.
like
He said Namdo-san is sleepy, that he has no energy, that watching him gives the audience low energy.
it's true.
Like he's not exciting.
No,
He has his head down most of the time,
yes,
metaphorically.
and he has a sad puppy face on
Yes.
all
And
the
his
time.
scenes are not typically really like jolly, thrilling, high tension types of scenes, I feel like.
Well, half of them is of him knitting.
Yeah, it's like he's moping a lot in all of his alone scenes. I'm not talking about the scenes where he's with his coding friends or when he's, well, I suppose whenever he's not actively coding, he's kind of mopey-ish
Yeah,
and dull
agreed.
and sleepy looking. Oh my God, we're like skewering him here.
I know,
We're
but
crucifying
he's a
Nando-san.
nice guy. Is just not someone that
He's not
we are
Jipyong.
attracted to, I guess. There could be a girl who is attracted to him, obviously.
And this is like the netizens are totally up in arms about this. If you look into Reddit, uh, they his character is criticized probably even more so than what we're doing right now. So people are not treating his character kindly. That's
Yeah,
too bad.
that is too bad.
But as far as trying to put myself in the shoes of what the writers were thinking, it makes sense that it's them two together and Ji Pyong didn't have much of a footing or much of a chance to begin with. That makes sense to me because all of that hearts he was gone for like 15 years. And I feel like, given that setup and given that in Taomi's in her journey to ladder up to success, like Namdo-san has always been there every step of the way. And he supported her really openly. And Ji Pyong, he gave his support in the background, but with the wrong motivations.
Yeah. I also found it interesting that like when he was younger, it was not clear that he was in love with her or he even had any kind of affection towards her. It was only when he got older that's when he was so suddenly so in love with her. I mean, I believed it, but then it's still like, whoa, like what happened?
I actually never got my head wrapped around that. I couldn't get into the psyche of why or how it happened. Like I knew he admired her like for her guts and for her perseverance. I just don't get why Ji Pyong is into
Yeah.
her.
Even though I'm rooting for him, that's the one point where I'm like, I still don't really get it. Like I got it after that he was in love with her, but I didn't get the transition like you said.
Yeah, it's almost like the writers just shoehorned that in all of a sudden.
Mhm.
All of a sudden he
Mhm.
was pursuing her.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So that was hard to digest a little bit.
Needed too much imagination. And when you need too much imagination and ways to rationalize character motivations, then it stays as a big weak gap in how a drama is written, which is too bad. But overall, I I enjoyed this drama. I it's not like a 5 out of 5 for me, but I think it's a solid like 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's unlike any drama about a profession that I've seen before. I mean, I've seen, okay, there are lots of doctor dramas. There are a couple of chef dramas here and there. There are police. There are quite a good number of dramas about building a business and being like an entrepreneur. So Itaewon Class is a prime example. Startup takes a very different premise, and it speaks very much to our current developments with major tech companies like Google and Apple and Microsoft and like Twitter and Tesla. All of those at some point started up as a startup.
Yeah, I think they're trying to take advantage of that trend by doing like the whole story based on that. And I think that's very smart of them. And it was what attracted us to watching it to begin with. And it was refreshing to see the difference between this and a typical, like, oh, inherit all your money from your rich dad kind of thing. It was really nice to see people building themselves up from scratch, multiple people have done that in the show, and I think that was really. I think that's why I would rate it as a not bad show. I think without that, it would be less interesting.
Yeah, I really liked how they build the world around entrepreneurship and startups. In that, yes, you need the technology, but you also need a very savvy CEO. You need investors, who will give you the seed money to begin doing what you wish to do. Business plans, like they throw out quite a good number of entrepreneur type concepts which kind of feed well into the world building. So there's a lot of terminology like angel investors, J curve. That's real tech world terminology or business world terminology.
Every episode there are a few. But there was one thing I wanted to ask you. Did you feel like Dalmi had what it takes to be a charismatic CEO? That's another part where I questioned.
I question how she got into that hackathon competition in the first place. With her very lacking credentials, she graduated with a high school diploma only. She's never ran her own business, and she's like, it seems like most of her adult life, she's just dabbled in part time jobs and excelled in them, but really dabbled.
Yeah, not so much her credentials, because obviously she didn't have it, but even her personality and charisma and all that. I don't think I was convinced that she had that to, be someone who is so, to be a CEO. Like they're trying to make her like the Steve Jobs, and they're trying to make Namdo-san like Wozniak, because he's the one who has the technical skills, right? Which I see, but for her, I don't see the charisma needed to be a good CEO. I see it in her sister.
Her sister's really badass.
Yeah, and I think you kind of need to be that to be a CEO,
I can't see her
right?
becoming top dog, which she did become at the end by the end of the drama. But I don't,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't see that. It's not very convincing to me.
Lots of things not convincing is what I've deduced from our conversation today.
And yet, we still like it overall, right?
Yes, that's true.
Despite all the shortcomings.
I guess
So
it's
that
just a
must
show.
speak to a, yeah, it just speaks to the strength of this drama outweighs all the shortcomings. So even though there are points where we've got to suspend our beliefs, even though we had our fan favorites, other strength of the drama, like I really enjoyed their OST. It's fabulous. There are two songs I love about it: Red Velvet's Future and Jung Sung Hwang's Day and Night. So one very happy, peppy song, and then one moody, sort of sad song. Background music was really well done too, in that it never outstayed its welcome. It's it's distinctive, like the music that they use, but they don't reuse the same track over and over and over again. Do you have some favorite scenes that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, I think, like we said before, it's probably more the first half. And the first thing that came to mind is when we're talking about like way back when Ji Pyong was still a young guy, and he went and confronted their grandmother about the money situation, and she handed over the money back to him. And it was just such a touching scene. And I think that really solidified their relationship as, I don't know, grandmother and grandson, I guess. And it just gave that bond between them. And they are definitely my two favorite people to watch throughout the show. If it wasn't for all the romance things, I really like their scenes together. If it's about family and caring for each other, that's definitely one of them. And then another one is when he came back and he saw her at her food truck, and they reunited again. So I think, yeah, that's a good way. The two scenes when they departed and they got back together.
Does everybody remember that video that Namdo-san's cousin made in episode 2? It's hilarious. With exploding volcanoes and landslides and shouting at the top of a mountain and riding a motorcycle into the sunset. Yeah, I laughed my butt off. It's like, money! Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation mark. Oh, I am satisfied with the ending. Like all that said, despite all those criticisms, I think it worked out well. Nobody got singled out, which is cool. So in they all did end up together in one form or another. The sister's back with the rest of the family, and Ji Pyong didn't just get written out of kind of the rest of Namdo-sang or So Darmi's life. He stayed true to what he started off was as a mentor and as an investor. And so now we're moving on to the next segment. Now that we have given it a favorable review, What is your recommendation or your tips for the best way to watch this drama? Is it bingeable?
Well, as you probably know, I watch my shows by binging 99% of the time. So the surprising thing is this time I didn't because it was my husband who wanted to watch this because he likes, like your brother, he wants to watch something about startups, thinking that it would be like Silicon Valley or something like that. And he wanted to watch it when it was still like airing. So I was forced to not binge and watch it week by week. And it was quite enjoyable for me actually for this type of show. I think I could have binged it, it wouldn't have been a big deal, but I enjoyed kind of waiting for it every week and, getting 2 episodes a week for it. So I think that would be a good way to watch it. It's not one of those shows that has a lot of like analysis and thinking and things like that. So I don't necessarily think you need time to digest it per se. So even if you do decide to binge it, it's not the end of the world, I think.
Thank you, Bonnie. We are ready for our next segment. With every K drama, there are often background secrets and Easter eggs to be found. I will give you 3 Easter eggs today. Let's start with the island of Sandbox. This filming location is called Nodur Som and it is a real man-made island in Seoul. So don't let that drone shot fool you. It is not CGI. Tip number 2. Kim Seon-ho, who plays Han Ji-pyong, at one point had to cry for 3 hours straight, and it's because they were shooting his crying emotional scenes one after another. Lucky for Kim Seon-ho, he's a pretty emotional guy. So even though by the end of it all he was pretty emotionally exhausted, the tears did come, and it gave us some amazing scenes with Han Ji-pyong and Grandma. Our last Easter egg is that our main cast main characters are named after Korean subway stations. That includes our 3 coders from Samsan Tech. It includes Darmi, 1-in-J, and Ji-pyong. That's it, everybody. Hope you had as much fun listening in as Bonnie and I have had in producing the episode. Surprisingly, quite a lot to dig into about this drama. Bonnie, how did you feel about our episode today?
Yeah, I felt like it was really fun to record this with you, and I didn't really have the chance to really dig into this show so much since I stopped watching it. So I'm glad we did this, and I hope that the audience enjoyed it as well.
Big thanks to Bonnie's. Thank you so much for coming on to the show with me. It's always more fun to do this with a partner in crime.
Thank you, Jackie.
Like, subscribe, give me a full star rating, and I will be back with more episodes. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye for now.